So today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on to episode 34 of the series, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I didn't think I was going to be able to record today, and there's a chance that I get interrupted during this recording, but both of my roommates just left, I think, to go to their classes. I was very lucky. I had all of my classes canceled today, so I've been here all day. I've been kind of like, monitoring it, and they all just left. So usually I do have a class at this time, but it got canceled, and they both left with their backpacks. So I'm assuming they're going to their class, which gives me about an hour-ish to record, and I was not expecting this. So this is great, and I said originally, even in the last video, which I just uploaded today or yesterday when you're seeing this, I said that there's a chance that there might not be a video today, and then I backed that up in the comments saying that there wouldn't be because they both seemed like they were off, but they just left, so I think we're good. But yeah, we're going to be continuing on with the Civilization series today, and it has been a very long time since we've done one of these videos, or since I've recorded one of them. I tried to yesterday, didn't work, but we're back on the main desktop PC in my dorm, so we're good. So what we saw last time in the Civilization series was kind of like the aftermath of World War II. The old empire and the Russians, they won. We saw Europe go into rebuilding, the French team kind of did some stuff, but most of the stuff's been happening in the New World, or I guess the new countries in the New World. So over here in America, we saw a civil war take place in the United States between the US and I'm going to call it Texas. And then Texas had a war with Mexico and they won. So this country's been doing pretty good lately. We saw the decolonization of the Irish team that led to a lot of new countries in Central Africa and in Central South America. We saw a war over here in Ethiopia, and I don't really know what else. Oh yeah, there was a big war in Central Asia. But today we're going to be going over some stuff that I kind of missed when I did the pre-recorded run. So all of the Civilization videos, I think the past 5 have been pre-recorded, which means that I haven't been getting a lot of input from you guys that I can put into the videos, and I'm kind of like behind on my explanations of some things, or I need to go into detail about some others. So we're going to be kind of using this video to do that. I need to kind of just catch up, I guess. I have a whole list of things that I've written down here, all of things that I want to cover, clear up, or introduce. So let's start with the clearing up. We're going to be talking about the Triangle Alliance. Now, I've been hyping these guys up as one of the strongest alliances in the world before World War II, and that was by design. I wanted the Triangle team to seem like they were, strong and unstoppable, kind of like the Allies, and I achieved that because of the comments. The Triangle team in this universe is supposed to be overrated, kind of like how the Allies were kind of overrated until the US and the Russians got involved. France fell very quickly, and that's kind of a reflection onto this universe, how, the Triangle team fell pretty quickly. It's not that the Square Alliance was that much stronger, it's just that the Triangle Alliance was that much weaker. They were overhyped once again. And of course, when the Brown team won, that kind of changed everything, but by the time the Brown team joined that war, it was pretty much already over, or it was trending to be over. Of course, there were a few more countries that joined in over here, but that didn't really change the tide of the war too much. It was already looking like it was going to be a Square team victory. So I do want to clear that up. The Triangle Alliance was a little bit overrated by design. And the next thing I want to do is power rankings, because it's been a while since we've done those. Now, these power rankings are going to be factoring in everything, including military economy, political stability, and what else there is, unrest, stuff like that. I have previously done power rankings that are involving, just military or just political stability, but these power rankings are going to be encasing everything into one list of the top 10. So let's go ahead and look at that. So the number 1 country in the world right now is understandably going to be the old empire, but right behind it might be a little bit surprising. It's a country on the rise. It is the Chinese country. So old empire, obviously number 1. They are a unionized state that has been rapidly expanding outwards. It's a very populated country, the most populated in the world. It's also one of the most historic countries in the world. It has a bunch of different cultures in it that have all been kind of mushed together. So there's really isn't any instability within. There's not a lot of tension within because of the historic area. And I guess to kind of mesh with that, it rules over most of the same religion. Once again, religion isn't too important in this series, but just to note, some areas where they don't have the same religion, in the Balkans, over here in Persia, up here in the Central Asian region, and everywhere else though they do have that culture / religious benefit. I do want to say that these pink and reddish colors over here, that means it is an offshoot of that religion. So the red is the main religion, and these 2 pink colors are 2 different offsets of that religion, just to kind of clarify it. I think if we ever do a season 2 of this series, I want to definitely be a little bit more active and involved in culture and religion maps, because that would help out a lot in a lot of the explanations for why things happen, and it can also give us a lot more scenarios. But I just didn't keep up with it in this series, and now I feel like it's a little bit too late to go back and add in these religions because there would be no historical context with them. But yeah, back to the power rankings. At number 3, we have the Russian country. This is pretty, I mean, it was one of the victors in World War II. It makes sense for them to be here. And then now we get to number 4. This is where things get a little bit complicated, because there are a lot of contestants for who could be number 4, including India, including Korea. Actually, that's really it. Because the Triangle team is in rebuilding, you know, they're of course going to be a lot more weaker right now than they were before. But I'm going to go ahead and give it to India. Now, remember, the Lime team was a country that ruled over the Indian region, and most other industry was over here in this area of India going down into the peninsula. This is where they had all their industry, whereas they had most of their government over here, where the old empire's puppet is now, which means that this country is very populated, very economically set up. They may not be all there politically and military wise, but they are super set up to have a really good economy, and that's exactly what they have. And with good economy, you can fund that military, and you know, you have a lot of money that can get you a lot of military. So without a doubt, the Indian team has been taking this to their advantage. They've used the assets left to them by the Lime team, and they are probably, you know, the 4th strongest country in the world at this point. And at number 5, a country that has definitely crept its way back up into the top 5 is going to be Korea. Now remember, Korea has been isolationist for a very long time, until recently they set out, you know, they kind of militarized their economy a little bit, and they went on to a series of invasions in northeastern Asia. That went very well, and now they've kind of slowly crept back into that isolationism, although not fully, but they're definitely having a more emphasis on their economy. You know, the whole world as a whole is kind of investing in their economies. It's leading to kind of an economical boom, kind of similar to what happened after World War II, at least in the US. It wasn't like that in the whole world, but some countries, you know, make a lot of money off of these wars. But now we can look at number 6, and now this is where it's kind of a shot in the dark, because there's a lot of options for number 6. I would argue that the brown team is probably still one of the strongest countries in the world. And you might be wondering, how so? Because they just lost so much land, you know. They had all of this over here. I mean, all of this land right here was a part of the brown team at one point. Or actually, no, it wasn't this, but it was this. And of course, they had all their colonies across the world. But the thing about the brown team is very similar to what happened to India. They have all of their population and economy and military political stuff. This is their important core territory right here. So although they did lose, you know, over 50% of their total mass, all the important stuff is encased right here. So I would argue the brown team is still the 6th strongest country in the world, even after losing over 50% of their territory. I mean, it's probably even more than 50%. That's just a very kind generalization, because, you know, they were reaping in money from all of their colonies, and that's, you know, kind of what led them to revolt. They don't have that money anymore, which sucks, but they have a more focused area that they can concentrate their investments on, and I think that kind of warrants them in top 6 spot. But now on to 7, 8, 9, and 10, because I do kind of want to move on to some other content in this video. There's a decision to be made here, and I think I'm going to go with this country here, the Iberian one. I'm going to go ahead and put them as IB, but this country is one that was a victor in World War II, not because of what they did, but because what their allies did. And oh, I'm totally forgetting something very obvious here. Go ahead and scratch it out. Let's put the African Union at 7. In fact, I would argue that they probably go at 6, maybe even 5. I don't know why, I just completely forgot about the African Union. I'm going to also justify it real quick, but just real quick, we'll put the Korean country back at 6, and then the Iberian country back at 7. But the African Union is huge, and it's definitely one of the strongest countries in the world. It's definitely trending towards being one of the great powers, although the only country that is technically a great power right now is the brown team, because they have nukes, or they have one nuke. They have tested one nuclear weapon, and that's something that we're going to expand on a little bit in this episode as well. But the African Union, yeah, they're top 5. I don't know how I completely forgot about them. But then after that, we have the Iberian country, and once again, we're getting to the point now where it's just like, what country really is next? You can make a case for the southern Chinese country, maybe Vietnam. They definitely have gotten big, but I'm not sure if their economy is as robust as some of these other countries. I don't think that any of the new countries are going to make this list, because that doesn't make much logical sense, although this one right here, Could have a case. I just don't think that they're set up and stable enough to make the list. And I could just be completely missing a country here, and if I am, I'm super sorry. But I'm just looking around the Irish country. That's what it is. I'm gonna put the Irish country actually above the Iberian one, but I'll put that one down one spot. So I do keep dropping the Iberian country, but it's not because they're weak, it's just because I keep forgetting about other countries like the Irish country. These guys just decolonized, so that definitely hurts their economy a little bit, but once again, they have their core territory to focus on and invest in, so in the long run, they should become a little bit stronger. I think we also can look at the Norwegian country as one of the top powers in the world at this point. I'm going to go ahead and put them as a no. That's pretty self-explanatory. They took over Denmark from the Brown team, and they rule over almost all of Scandinavia. And now we're looking at number 10. Now this could really be like a big 3-4-way race between a lot of countries. I'm looking at the French country in particular for this spot. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I'm also looking at the Vietnamese country. I'm looking at the Southern Chinese country, maybe the Red team in Central Asia. I'm looking at like the Farmers Union, maybe even the Purple team to an extent. But I think the French country is probably going to take the spot here. And these are our top 10 countries at this point. The old empire, number 1, China, number 2, number 3 being Russia, then India at 4, the Asia at what? My brain malfunctioned. But African Union at 5, Korea at 6, India at 7, not India, Ireland at 7. The Iberian country at 8, Norway at 9, and France at 10. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, I probably won't remember these rankings too well, but I'll try my best to adhere to them. But I do have a set plan set out for the series for the next couple of episodes. I've been taking in suggestions during my time not recording, and I have a game plan, and it's going to be good, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be crazier than World War II. It's going to be crazier than all the colonization that happened. It's going to be amazing. So do stay tuned for that. But now we need to establish some other things just before we get there. There are some fundamental things that are happening at this point in the world, such as the development of nuclear weapons in the space race, which really isn't a space race. It's more so of just going into space. There's no rivalry just yet between countries. Well, we're gonna get there eventually. But the old empire is shooting rockets into space. They're doing so with their allies. The whole world is kind of in on this thing. But there is a slight issue. There is a evolving power dynamic taking place in Asia, and it's not good because the top 3 countries in the world are all friendly with each other. However, they're all rivals. So that's the old empire, that's Russia, and that's China. And remember, the old empire and Russia are very close to each other. However, they are slowly starting to split apart. It's like, I guess, what is it, mitosis? I haven't taken bio since freshman year of high school. I should know what it is, but it's like when the cell splits. It's mitosis, right? But that's basically what's happening here. You have the old empire and you have Russia, and they're slowly starting to kind of break apart like that. And of course, China already broke apart after World War II, but now it's happening with the old empire and Russia over a series of disagreements on Eastern Europe. More specifically, it pertains to the Farmers Union, the Purple country, and the Brown team even going up into Finland. The Russian Empire wants to go ahead and they want to take land from the Farmers Union and the Purple team, and they want to go ahead and split it with the old empire. Now, the only issue the old empire has with that is that historically the Farmers Union is a very close and friendly country to the old empire. The people here, there's love for each country within and amongst the civilian population. Government officials, of course, same thing. If the old empire were to invade and participate in the partaking of the Farmers Union, the civilian population would not be happy, and so would a lot of the government. In fact, the government probably wouldn't even let something like that happen. So the old empire is going to go ahead and say, don't do that, and Russia's going to be like, why? So now we can kind of see why there's, that split starting to occur. Russia has ambitions in Eastern Europe, whereas the old empire doesn't really have those ambitions in Eastern Europe, and wants the Russians to stay out of their allied territory. Even though the Farmers Union technically isn't in their alliance, they're still very close to the old empire, and those are historic ties that go back before the old empire even existed, when there was just the red team. And remember, Russia also already has some stuff in Eastern Europe. They have 2 puppet states, being Germany, I guess, and Austria. These are 2 areas from the Brown team that they didn't annex because that would be a lot of land to take hold of all at once, but they made them puppet states. They're basically just Soviet satellites, if you will. But to kind of cope with the fact that the old empire is blocking them from invading into the Balkan area, the Russians will go ahead and declare war on this tiny little satellite state over here that was once a part of the Sweden. And this war goes just about how you would expect it to go. very quick and the death of that country. And just like that, they are wiped off of the map. It was a small country. It's kind of like Danzig. In fact, it really was exactly where Danzig was. I mean, it was a little bit over here, but same area. There's going to be no repercussions though, because why exactly would there be? Nobody really cares about that country. What is the old empire's response to this? They really don't have one. You know, they still are fundamentally imperialist. They are still looking towards invading and expanding their territory. They just right now are not doing that because they're kind of focused on going up into space. They launched a satellite in the last episode. Since then, they've launched a few more, and there currently is a program to put a man in space, but that's not their main priority. Their main priority is catching up with the Brown team in terms of technology. Remember, the Brown team has tested a nuke on Iceland, leading to a kind of mini ice age happening. That doesn't really have a super major effect on the world, but it's a fun little kind of natural disaster event to talk about. And they're responsible for it, and they're getting sanctioned for it. Well, the old empire knows that, you know, nuclear bombs are maybe important to have. So they have their own nuclear program, and how close are they really to achieving, nuclear status? Very close. They may or may not have a lot of intel on the I think I called it the Amsterdam project. Kind of like how the Soviets in real life were all over the Manhattan project. The old empire is all over the Amsterdam project. And they are very close to developing their first nuclear weapon. And something that is kind of an issue is that they're not sharing any of this information or technology with the Russians, and the Russians are taking great offense to that. And once again, we're going back to the mitosis kind of thing. They're getting very close to just splitting apart. The Russians don't like that they're being secretive, and the old empire doesn't like that the Russians want to be helping their business. Also, on the other side of the map, China is kind of criticizing both of them, saying, hey, don't imperialize Eastern Europe and don't develop nuclear weapons. We don't need it. Why don't we all just come together and try to get the Brown team to stop doing that, because that's not good. That leads to mass casualties. We don't want to we don't want that to happen. And I do want to say at this point, the world isn't fully knowledgeable about how bad nuclear weapons really can be. Once again, similar to how in real life, the US didn't know how bad nukes were until they dropped them on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And even then, it took them a few more years to really, gauge how bad and how, horrible that nuclear weapons are. So the Brown team is going to keep testing them, maybe not on Iceland, but maybe on a few islands in the ocean. I'm sure they might have one or two that I forgot to color in differently, like this one right here. So maybe they're testing their nukes there now, but they're definitely not nuking Iceland, because that obviously had a very bad effect. So where's the old empire gonna test their nukes if they ever get there? Probably in the desert, the Saudi desert, maybe. Probably not near Mesopotamia, but down here. Maybe even in Africa, like in Egypt. Actually, a good explanation for why they bought this land in the last episode was to test nuclear weapons. So there we go. There's our reason for why they bought that land. But yeah, old empire developing nukes. Russia wants to also develop nukes, but old empire's not sharing information with them. So Russia's going to have to go behind their back and also infiltrate into the Amsterdam project. And ties are once again starting to separate. And now let's talk about the power dynamics between the old empire and China, because remember, this is once again kind of a triangle of world power right now. These are the three strongest countries in the world. It is kind of leading into a tripolar international system. And if you know anything about international relations, that is not a good thing. That is very dangerous. They're not nuclear just yet, so it really isn't as bad as it could be, but things are definitely trending towards the nuclear direction. But between the old empire and China, there is a lot of non-cooperation in the space race. China is very invested in the space race. They're not really caring about nukes too much. They want to know how to get into space. They believe that it's better for humanity if we move past just the world and start looking into the universe. Maybe that's a way to kind of get past all the war and suffering. China's kind of pacifist. But the old empire isn't sharing their technology with China, and they're having a very hard time developing their own space technology. So they're kind of like, what analogy do I want to use now? Am I going to stay in biology? Let's go to chemistry. It's like a bond slowly breaking apart. They were never fully connected in one, but that bond is starting to break. And when bonds break, bad stuff happens usually. Sometimes it's good, but mostly bad. And what about the power dynamic between China and Russia? These two really don't share too much of a connection with each other in the first place. They mainly just kind of, were mutual through the old empire. But, China is against nuclear weapons. Russia's trying to get nuclear weapons. So there's that basis. And now for the final thing in this episode, I think, I might have a war maybe. No, we're not going to do a war. Actually, yes, we will. Let's go to Japan before I do my closing thing. Japan has been very peaceful for the last couple decades. Before that, they, had that big split. They were in a warring period. They've gotten out of that, but things are starting to heat up a little bit more because all three of these countries are claiming over the Japanese Isles as the rightful successor. You know, when the whole colony thing happened, Japan broke away as a colony and then just kind of fractured. All three of them kind of want to unite Japan under one, since they all have the same culture and language, which is a dialect of Korean. So that is happening, and all three countries are gearing up. But first, something else happens. The blue team and the light purple team are going to go ahead and sign a, coalition. And they're going to form one against the purple team. The purple team is the strongest country on the Japanese Isles, so it makes sense for them to work together before probably and inevitably fighting against each other. And if you think this war is going to be back and forth, you're dead wrong. Although the purple country is the strongest, they also aren't very strong in general. So like regionally wise, these guys are fairly evenly matched. It's just the fact that this country is stronger than both of these, but these two together is a lot stronger than this one on its own. So the two forces and sides meet up, and yeah, it's exactly what you would expect. Just utter destruction and not fairness for the purple team. And they meet in the middle, with the blue team capturing the capital of the purple team, and they will go ahead and they're not going to sign a treaty, but they're going to divide up the land. And that division will look something like this. So the blue team will get all the land on this side of the line, and the light purple / white team will get all the land on this side of the line. Overall, the blue team definitely did more work than the light purple team. So they got a little bit more land, and it was a lot more valuable land. But now these two are just kind of sitting on this border looking at each other because they know what's going to happen next. It's just a matter of time. As for us though, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the African Union, where some important stuff is happening. The African Union formed a very long time ago between two northern African nations looking to benefit each other. You know, the one over here in the east, they wanted to have better access to the Atlantic, and the one over here in the west, they just wanted a better economy. They weren't very strong. They were kind of far away from the center of economy, which was in like Italy / Greece at that time. Now it's kind of shifted to just, you know, the world, you know, transporting goods and services. That has become a lot more widespread and easier. So it kind of defeats the purpose of the union, at least for this side of the union. But one thing is happening within, and slowly but surely we're once again seeing mitosis. The two sides are kind of starting to show signs of splitting, and the government is in full panic mode because splitting would be very dangerous for the union right now because one, they don't have established borders between the two nations within. They do have dual capitals. However, if you look at the province map, you can kind of see how there isn't a whole organized thing set up. You have the two core provinces of each country, which are like, they're like these, I think, something. So the one in the east looked like that, and the one in the west looks something like this, I think. But now we have all these new provinces over here, and we have a whole bunch of land down here, which has yet to be divided up fairly. And yes, I have not updated the province map. I'm just extremely not smart. So there's a lot of disagreement on if a split were to happen, how exactly would the land be divided up? And that is starting to cause tension. You know, before it was just a matter of discussion, like, hey, you know, if this thing really does start to fall apart, I get this land, you get this land, right? And then the other side would be like, no, I get this land. And eventually the thought of it happening starts to turn into like, when is it going to happen? Instead of bringing it up in discussions, they're having full-on debates about how this thing is going to be split up. So it's crumbling, it's starting to fall apart, and it was kind of like a snowball effect. A few extremists who wanted to split got it to go all the way up into the government, and now the whole country is looking to split. It's bad, but it has happened in history before. But for now, the African Union is going to try to hold on, and they're going to try their best to kind of ease these tensions, especially the presidents of the country. They have a dual president system now, and both of the presidents want to stick together. However, their government, the elected leaders and congresses and, you know, all the other stuff, even the citizens, are in favor of splitting. So it might just be a matter of time for the African Union, and this could have detrimental effects on Africa as a whole, because remember, the African Union implemented their currency into these countries down here. All these countries share the same currency as the African Union, and should the African Union disappear, it would cause an economical downfall and collapse in West Africa. It would have a lot of negative effects on the world. That's why these two presidents are very, eager to set aside these differences and try to keep their country united together. There's even, outside push by the old empire and some other countries to really keep this thing together, because it falling apart would hurt the world tremendously. But other than that, I think that's actually all that I wanted to cover in this episode. So, like I said, I brushed up on a few things, I added some new things, I got done what I wanted to get done, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. This took me 37 minutes and I got a lot done, so this kind of proves my theory, or it kind of answers my question that I had in the video yesterday/today when I'm recording this. But yesterday when you're seeing this, can I record civilization videos within 40 minutes? Yes, I can. And this is huge because, my lunch breaks are 40 minutes. and when there's nobody here, I can record, but that's only on Monday and Wednesdays, not on Fridays. I've figured that out today. So Fridays are out the window for recording anything, as well as Tuesdays and Thursdays usually, and the weekends. So the only time I have to record is my lunch breaks on Mondays and Wednesdays because I can't record on my laptop. Just kind of a recap in case you forgot. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave all of your suggestions and input in the comments. That is super helpful for me, and it really helps shape this series as a whole. It's mostly guided by your guys' input, so do know that leaving your comment is helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Pablo Sigma Cat, Sermonator, Georgie Badev, Deathstrider X, Arentine, HammerToad45, Connor the Gamer, Poland Country Ball, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.